What's up, everybody? This is Pat Gordon of the Philadelphia Baseball Review. Glad you're here this evening. Wanted to talk about Dave Dombrowski and this Bryce Harper saga. I mean, who would have thought, right? We're sitting here, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto. Who would have thought that Bryce Harper at this point would be the highlight circling the drama of the Phillies offseason? It's really wild to think about how we got here. And I don't think Dave Dombrowski did anything wrong. Dave Dombrowski was honest. He was authentic. He was transparent. Something that we, as Philadelphians, are supposed to love. Something that you do not see in sports or in politics or anything anymore. And here, Dave Dombrowski did that. Dave Dombrowski was honest about Bryce Harper and gave us a fair assessment. Harper was great this season. He wasn't elite. I think Bryce Harper would agree with that. The fact that we're sitting here today, now almost 2 weeks after the fact, and there's still murmurs about Harper being on a trade block is wild. Now, Dombrowski spoke, it would have been, 2 Thursdays ago, at the end of season post conference or press conference, addressing the team. And I believe Matt Gelb asked about how would you assess Bryce Harper's season this year. And Dombrowski's answer, I'm not going to lie, I was shocked. Not that I disagree at all with what he said. I don't. I was shocked he was as honest as he was. I was shocked that he took Harper and said what we all already, whether it be writers or fans, already think, that he is potentially on the decline of his career. Now, that doesn't mean he's a bad player. That doesn't mean that he can't still potentially win an MVP. That doesn't mean that he can't take this team and get over the hump and win a World Series. It just meant he had a down year. And so when Dombrowski said what he did, mentioning that he doesn't know if Harper next year will elevate to the old version or kind of stay where he's at or taper off, I think he's right. I don't think there's anything there to argue or fight about. But here comes Sports Talk Radio. Here comes the drama. Oh, and Harper's unhappy, and Dombrowski has him on the block. You read, New York Yankees are in, the Red Sox are in, Harper's going to be moved. Dombrowski had to kind of throw water on this. He had to go public. And so he went on foul territory and said as such, and said that Harper's not going to be moved. This whole thing has kind of taken on a life of its own. And he's right, it has. It has. And I'll tell you why. I think it took on a life of its own because no one expected Dombrowski to be as honest and as candid and as transparent as he was. That's the problem. No one expected that because we don't see it that often, if ever. How many times have you heard these postseason press conferences or after game press conferences, or you talk to, or you hear from a player in a clubhouse or a locker room, and they give you that sort of, well, we really tried our best, and I think, we'll go get them tomorrow, and it's another day. And Dombrowski could have very easily went that route and said something about, we're pleased with Harper and what he means to this team, what he means to this organization. We're glad that he's feeling healthy, and we expect a bounce back season next year. He could have went that route. Instead, he went much, much deeper, right? And in turn, now we got a firestorm. As if that wasn't bad enough, and I give credit to Matt Gelb for doing this, Gelb went with The Athletic and must have spoken to Harper. And on Saturday, published a piece with Harper's comments rebutting what was said by Dombrowski. And Harper goes into, I don't have the quotes directly in front of me, but essentially Harper's feelings are hurt. Harper feels that this is unfair. Harper feels that this is what he didn't want to have happen in Philadelphia. And it happened to him in Washington, and he hated it. It was like a black cloud that hung over him. And now we have the same damn situation here in Philadelphia. Now, what Harper could have done is say, hey, look, boss is right. I expect more of myself. I'm looking for a better season next year. I can't wait for what's to come. He could have went that route. He absolutely could have said that. He didn't. Instead, he kind of played into it. Now, Harper has a no-trade clause. He has a no-trade clause. So even if the Phillies wanted to move him, which they don't, even if they wanted to, Harper would have to agree to it. Harper's not agreeing to anything because nothing's going to happen. But now we sit here. The World Series isn't even over. We're at Game 3. And the biggest storyline of this offseason, arguably, is the situation the Phillies find themselves in. And it's just ridiculous. It's drama for the sake of drama. And I would like to think that Dombrowski and Harper and Middleton kind of, smooth this over. And I believe they will, right? I don't think Dombrowski needs to apologize for anything. I think what he said was fair game. I think Harper may be taking it a little hard, but I get it totally too. Like, hey, who wants their boss to question them publicly? I'll say this about Harper. You cannot question his commitment to this team, to this organization, to the city. You could argue 100% that maybe he panders a little bit too much, right? The fanatic cleats, the fanatic elbow guard, the I'm Philly, look at me. Fine, you could argue that, and I may agree with you. But you can't take away the fact that dude cares about this city. He cares about this organization. He has never gone through the motions. He has played hurt. He's never been one where you had to question hustle. There's guys in that clubhouse where you've had to do that. He's not one of them. So, for him to feel that this organization may be shafting him isn't a good look. Now, another layer to this. The past 2 off seasons, Scott Boras, Harper's agent, and if you know sports or specifically baseball, you've heard that name, Scott Boras. He talks a lot, but he also does a lot. He gets a lot of money for his guys. Well, Harper wants an extension to his contract. Now, there's 6 years left on this thing. He's 33 years old. I do think the Phillies will give him an extension. The contract runs until I believe he's 38 years old. He wants to end his career here in Philadelphia. John Middleton wants him to enter the Hall of Fame wearing the Phillies P. I think both will happen. I don't think both happen, or the impetus for that. I don't think either happens, or I don't think it happens this winter. It just doesn't make any sense. So if this is all a ploy to try and get, extra years or an extension, I don't think it's going to work right now. Why does it not work right now? Well, for multiple reasons. One, we have labor uncertainty, right? We don't know what's going to happen after 2026, and everyone's talking about how it's going to be Armageddon. I hope it's not. I'm sure you hope it's not. But that's what it sounds like. Armageddon. In addition to that, right now, it doesn't make any financial sense at all for the Phillies to give an extension to Bryce Harper. Take feelings out of it. Think about business. John Middleton, and Dave Dombrowski said this at the press conference, they're not going to go with a payroll of $400 million. Middleton doesn't need to do that, number one. And number two, it just doesn't make sense. Why put more money up against the payroll now and rack that up when there's other needs that this team has? What good is it if you extend Harper, give him more money now, and now, we're hamstrung as an organization and can't do anything? What good is that? That's shooting everybody in the foot. So that doesn't make sense. So I don't see that. I think this is something, I think they work this out. I think it's down the line they do. I think Harper wants to stay here and end his career. Come on, 38 years old, you want to get that last deal? I mean, think of all the superstars or fading superstars, if you will, that happened to, right? It's never fun to see. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he finishes it here in Philly, and I think Middleton wants to see that through. I just don't think the timing lines up properly for it. So, again, a lot of drama, a lot of hoopla, and I think all of it is unwarranted. I think what started this whole thing was Dombrowski being upfront and honest and maybe saying something that we're just not used to hearing in media and through, from a person at that stature in an organization. That's my take on it. That's where I think we're at now. And it's hopefully something that will be settled internally. I believe it will be. I think they'll talk, and I wrote about that this week, that they could, have a nice laugh over it in a couple of weeks. But from all the reports I've read and people I've spoken to that are in the know, Harper really is not happy that Dombrowski made those remarks. So, now, was Dombrowski looking to light a fire under Harper? Maybe. Does he need that fire? Is Harper the type of player that needs an extra level to push to? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know what goes on necessarily within closed door meetings that high up in the organization. So, somebody sent me a message asking about Kyle Schwarber, and I've alluded to this before. No news at all on Schwarber or Real Muto or anything. You won't see any movement there really until probably December at the earliest, the winter meetings, but this stuff will likely span much further than that. I still hold true to what I said. I wrote a couple weeks back, and I wrote during the postseason, that I think the Phillies want Schwarber. I think Schwarber wants to stay here. I don't think that's a question at all. You could tell from how Schwarber acted and how he spoke following that elimination game against the Dodgers. Unlike Pete Alonso, who within minutes of his team being eliminated said, "I'm opting out of my contract" up in New York, Schwarber talked instead about how much camaraderie is in this clubhouse, what these guys mean to me, how our families are intertwined. He spoke like a guy that does not want to leave. So I believe it's a two-way street here, though. I think, yes, he wants to come back. I think, yes, the Phillies want him back. Is another team going to come in and bowl the Phillies over with an offer? Perhaps, right? Perhaps. But I don't think the door is slammed by any means. I do think the pressure is on Middleton and the Phillies organization. I don't think the fan base will take kindly to the organization letting Schwarber walk. And so even if that means the organization has to overpay a bit, I think they're going to have to do it. I think you make that overpay. This is one of those scenarios where the player is worth more than just what they do on the diamond. And I know that may not make smart financial sense, especially if you have to do, let's say, a 4-year deal, and, that third and fourth year, he's barely, on the field. I get that. But from a PR standpoint, you need to think about what this organization looks like to this fan base. And I think the fans, if you let Schwarber go or don't make a valiant effort to keep him here, it's going to be a bad look. And I think they will torch Citizens Bank Park. I think it'll be really tough. It'd be interesting to see now, all right, take Schwarber out of it. What does Dombrowski do this offseason? What moves does he make to take up for the money that Schwarber would make? How different and radically different would this team look? it would be an interesting exercise. Maybe something I'll take a look at in the coming weeks before we head to the winter meetings down in Orlando. But from a pure PR standpoint, this team needs Kyle Schwarber. I think from a leadership standpoint, from a fan standpoint, from a bat standpoint, this team needs him. And I said the same about JT. Somebody asked me about what are the Phil's going to do free agency. I said, well, do you like Kyle Schwarber? Do you like JT Realmuto? Because I think those are the two guys that come back, especially Realmuto, because if you look at the catching prospects, there are none. Marshawn hasn't proven he can hit at the major league level on a regular basis. There's very few free agents that are going to whet your appetite. I understand catchers, and as they get older, especially with their legs and this, that, the other, I get all that. But he gives a masterclass behind the plate every time he's out there. Suarez and Sanchez, you could argue, wouldn't be the pitchers they are today if it wasn't for JT. I think you have no choice. I think you give JT, and I think you have to overpay for JT perhaps also, because again, catchers are in such demand. I wouldn't be shocked if that's a 3, maybe even a 4-year deal. Now, you're getting to the point, and I have something planned to write about this. You are getting to the point where you're selling the future for now. You're selling basically 2028, 2029, unless you get an infusion of awesome prospects. You're going to be locked into some contracts there with some aging stars that who knows what they're going to be able to produce at what level. Between Turner, Harper, Nola, Schwarber potentially Realmuto, right? That list is going to continue to go. What does that look like, right? So that's something we'll keep an eye on this offseason. And that's why I mentioned this, I believe, in the last podcast, why it's so important that this team hits with some of these prospects. You have to have Painter, Crawford, and Miller. I'm telling you, 2 of those 3 have to hit. 2 of those 3 have to be legit major leaguers, not your Scott Kingery types, not your fringe players. These guys need to be legit contributing major league players. Not saying right out of the box they need to be all-stars, no. But they have to be legit major league players that contribute right away. Otherwise, your organization is going to be down on the swing. It's going to look rough for a few years. I think we've talked about this already, and this has been written by many, many outlets, but the Nick Castellanos situation, I saw reports that he has his house up for sale. I think both parties are in agreement, like, hey, let's try and move on here. No real indications yet. Again, it's still early about what could happen. I think a trade is more likely than a straight out release. But I think in a trade, the Phillies are going to have to eat quite a bit. I think he's owed $20 million next year. I think the Phillies are going to have to eat quite a bit of that. And I think they're willing to do that to move on. It's I think John Foley wrote about this on his Substack about Castellanos and how arguably he was like one of the more Philadelphian players that we've had in this city. And I can absolutely see that. He is sort of a blue collar. He's at times a bit out there in what he says, wears his heart on his sleeve. I just also think he kind of at the end became a bit of a whipping boy, and it's not working out. I mean, Fangraphs I think had him as the lowest rated everyday player by WAR this past season, and defensively we know the issues there. So as much as he may be likable at times, I think from an output standpoint, it just isn't there. And so I think the Phils have to look at moving on. And what does that mean? Well, what's that mean for Brandon Marsh? What does that mean for Justin Crawford? What does that mean for potentially Harrison Bader, right? What does that look like for this outfield? Are they looking to bring Bader back even, right? All things that we're going to need to see over the next couple of weeks as the winter meetings inch closer down in Lake Buena Vista, December, is that 6th to the 9th or something like that. I don't have the exact dates in front of me. So, couple thoughts on the World Series here. We're 2 games in, and I thought, I believe the Dodgers are definitely the better team. Very impressed so far with how the Blue Jays have been able to hang. Right now it's 4-4, I believe, in the middle of 6th inning of Game 3. They're hanging. They're doing their thing. I think the Dodgers bullpen will be their Achilles heel. I think if the Dodgers lose this series, which I would be shocked if they do, I think it's going to be that bullpen, though. That bullpen, whoo, man. That bullpen's bad. It's leaking. And Alex Vezzi, unfortunately, is out with the family issue. Prayers to him and his wife. Hopefully everything's okay. I believe his wife is pregnant. So, again, prayers to them. So, that's a massive loss to back into their bullpen there. So, but if the Dodgers lose this series, I think it's going to come down to their bullpen. Interesting thing I heard the other day. I forget which show it was on. I think it was on the MLB Network. I forget. Is it good for Major League Baseball to have a super team like the Dodgers? And I believe Brian Kenny said yes, it is good. And especially because no team has won back-to-back World Series since the Yankees did it way back. I think it was the late 90s. And I don't know. You think about it, right? Everybody, or many people, have been saying that what the Dodgers have done to basically finance their team, to put their payroll together with all the deferred contracts, is part of the reason why we're looking at a labor issue potentially in 2027. So, it's great if you have a super team, but if every other team is so mad and pissed at that organization that they feel they can't compete, so in turn, we're going to be without baseball, then no, I don't want a team like that. I think baseball is one of those unique sports where payroll doesn't necessarily matter. It's chemistry, it's injuries, it's depth, it's your farm system. All of that stuff plays into it. The problem with baseball, as I see it, and this is a podcast for another time, the issue is that organizations need to find ways to keep their talent. The Pirates should not be looking to move Paul Skeens. The Tigers should be doing everything possible to keep Tarek Skubal. We know that's not happening. And odds are we likely know what organizations those players will end up with. That's a problem in my mind. That's a problem. How do you keep those young 11 and 12-year-old fans out in Pittsburgh rooting for the Pirates when Skeens is here for another 2 years or whatever it may be, and then he's gone? Or those kids in Detroit, or those kids anywhere, Kansas City with Bobby Witt, or any other young superstar level caliber player. Those players get traded or moved because the team can't financially handle them. It's bad. It's a bad look. So I don't have the answers. I don't want a salary cap. I think letting the teams police themselves until this deferred nonsense came into it, I think letting the teams police themselves was the way to go. And I still believe that, right? I think stupid money doesn't equal World Series. But I do think you need organizations to be in a better spot so that they can keep their younger, impressionable prospects. Because without them, I think baseball is going to have a really tough go of it in some of those places where, hey, we generate the talent, we cultivate the talent, they come up, they're great, and then we're just the feeder system for the large teams, which, let's be honest, right now, the Phillies are one of those teams. The Phillies are one of those teams, not that we do it now, but from a payroll standpoint, that we could throw some money around. Not right now, I'm talking about if you think about the payroll overall, right? We're in a different spot in Philadelphia than we were in 1999, right? Where we were a small market team in a large market. right? Remember those comments back at the vet? And that's where Jim Thome came in. Jim Thome is what opened up the gates to all of this in a good way for Philadelphia. So there's some real problems there. And I don't see how it gets fixed. I hope it does get fixed. I don't want a work stoppage at all, especially a long one. Who wants that? Who wants a summer without baseball? So I think it's a matter of, hopefully, in the coming weeks, that ownership, the players' union, getting together, having conversations. I just, it's looking bleak. Armageddon's the word I keep hearing. So hopefully that's not the case. I don't know if you were around, but we all remember, many of us remember 94. The Expos were doing fantastic. That's ultimately why Montreal ended up vacating. That's why the Expos became the Nationals. 94 killed baseball in that city. The fans never came back. And what did it? It's for all of baseball. It basically took steroids and the home run chase with Sosa and McGuire. I don't want to go back down that road, man. I don't want to have that be why baseball becomes popular again. I want baseball to remain popular because of the young, huge names. I want baseball to remain popular because of how it's become a global game. I want baseball in Philadelphia to remain popular because of how good this team has been. Take out the postseason disappointments. We've been very lucky for quite a few summers now to have some solid baseball played here. Take out 93. Think about what those late 80s, early to mid 90s, hell, even late 90s teams were like. You get amped up about Terry Francona and, 79 and 81 or whatever. Come on now. Right? So we've been very lucky in that sense. So one other item I wanted to talk about here quickly today before I wrap up. The Philadelphia Daily News did an article recently on youth baseball or youth sports facilities in the city and how they, where they're more dilapidated than others and where the city needs some work. And to no surprise, the article hinted and highlighted areas in black communities, North Philadelphia, Southwest Philadelphia, as those that are really in disrepair and need more help. And I don't know. It's so frustrating. I mean, part of it is like, well, obviously that's the situation. We don't need an article to tell us that. We don't need research to tell us that. Those of us that are out and involved in youth baseball, we see that on a daily basis. We see what these fields look like. We see what the infield dirt feels like. We see how there is no chalk on the lines. We know how the mound isn't really a mound. We understand that there's a massive divot in the batter's box. We understand all this. We don't need articles in the Daily News telling us our fields are bad. What we need is action. People to do something about it. I had a conversation, this is a couple months ago, with somebody from the Parks and Rec in Philadelphia, talking about this very topic and talking about the fields, and it was tough, man. The gentleman, and I'm not going to say names, mentioned to me that how difficult it is. So they'll send out a truck, let's say in the summer, to go to Wissanomi or Alany or some field, right? Tabor, right? And they'll take dirt out. And if you're in Philadelphia and you've been around youth baseball, they dump the dirt, usually, on the sides. And that's for when it rains and get some dirt to put out and to fix the fields, whatever. Guy was telling me how he had a pair of workers that went out an entire day dropping dirt at local fields. They were dropping the dirt on the infield next to the pitcher's mound. They just destroyed the fields. They had no idea the dirt wasn't meant to go on the field. That's the sort of stuff that's going on. So, anyway, I can't fix stupid necessarily. But what I am trying to do, little by little, is bring people together to sort of build a coalition of people that care about youth baseball, that care about youth empowerment, that care about community engagement. And what I want to do is bring us together and make stuff happen. The days of just discussing what's wrong and I wish this, I wish that, we have to put those aside. And what we need to do is come up with actionable items to move things forward. And the more of us that are together on this, the louder of a voice we're going to have. So one of the things that the Philadelphia Baseball Review is working on, and I'll be able to unveil this in mid-November, early to mid-November, is the Philadelphia Youth Baseball Leadership Council. And I am partnering with 6 or 7 or 8 really awesome people where we're going to go to town and work very, very hard to find out what's wrong. We already know a lot of it. And find ways to fix it. Find ways that maybe we can put a Band-Aid on it right now to get it ready, and then look at a long-term solution going forward. Looking at people, or looking to find people that really want to build legacy in this city as it relates to youth baseball and youth sports. So if that's something you are interested in, please feel free to reach out. Find me on Twitter at pgordonpbr. You can send me an email at pgordon@philadelphiabaseballreview.com. I'd love to hear from you. I have a lot of people already I'm talking with and that are going to be engaged. But what we're going to do with this Philadelphia Youth Baseball Leadership Council, underneath it is going to be an umbrella. We're going to have quarterly or bi-yearly, I haven't figured it all out yet at that level, but we're going to have meetings with neighborhoods. And we're going to break it up into certain parts of the city. So we know Northeast Philly, it's different than what Southwest Philly needs. We know what North Philly needs is different than what South Philly needs. We understand that there's a level of, I don't want to say level of commitment, that there's a level of volunteerism already in some parts of the city, whereas in other parts of the city, that level of volunteerism, for many different reasons, isn't necessarily there. What can we do to fix this? We don't need a report telling us this is a problem. We know it's a problem. What are we doing to fix it? So, from a youth baseball standpoint, I wanted to get that across in today's episode and put down the groundwork and let you know that we're doing that, or I'm doing that. And so if you want to be involved, you want to be somebody who is on the front lines, reach out. Let me know. P. Gordon, PBR on Twitter, or pgordon@philadelphiabaseballreview.com via email. You can hit me up also on Instagram at Philadelphia Baseball Review. If you haven't yet, we have a newsletter. Love for you to subscribe. You can subscribe on our website, www.philadelphiabaseballreview.com. I appreciate you taking the time and listening here. Feel free to subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcast at, Spotify, Apple, or iTunes, everywhere else. Also, we're starting to put these up on YouTube. Now, give me some grace here with YouTube. It's going to take a little bit of time to work out the kinks with the video, to work out the kinks with the thumbnails and stuff like that. So I'm getting there. I'm getting there with it, but it's new. So you can find us also on YouTube, already up on YouTube, just in case you didn't know. And we'll be adding a lot more of these, but I have a lot of vintage games, old Phillies, yearbooks, video books, that sort of thing. So definitely encourage you to check that out. Again, I'll probably have another podcast out either later this week, early next, talking about some things, unless some breaking news happens. And maybe we'll do something right after the World Series, talking about what some immediate needs the Phillies have, because there are a few. And we'll see where this Bryce Harper saga takes us next. So again, I'm Pat Gordon of the Philadelphia Baseball Review. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you listening. Please stay in touch. Anything that you have or care about with Philadelphia baseball, we're going to be covering it right here.